Hello, everyone. Usually I don't need a mic, so I probably could have got away with it. But thank you all for coming today to the campus forum in September. I have Andy with me from True Shrimp. We thought it would be a great opportunity for Andy to come and visit with all of you as members of the Madison community and DSU to hear from True Shrimp themselves, what's going on, what's their plans, what is behind the research of True Shrimp and so forth. We just thought it was a really great opportunity to provide this to you. I did ask, and Andy said you can ask questions throughout. It may just lengthen the program, or you can wait till the end and we can do Q&A at that time. So if something's burning throughout the program, please raise your hand and we'll get you. I'll try to run to you with the mic since we are live streaming so everybody can hear the question. So with that, it's all yours.
All right, very good. Is this okay? Can everybody hear okay? All right, well, first of all, thank you for having us. This is pretty neat. I've been to many of these kind of forums, but I've never been standing here. So I've always been seated with you guys. So thank you for inviting True Shrimp. We're actually flattered that somebody would want to hear a lot about what this little company over in Ballatin, Minnesota has been up to. But we've been up to some great things and some exciting things. And very soon, hopefully, Madison's going to be our first commercial facility. We're unbelievably excited. We're in the process of raising money for that. And so today what I want to try to do is take you through, just try to introduce you to True Shrimp and what we do, and then talk a little bit about what you can, why we chose Madison, and then also sort of what you can expect, a little bit about what you can expect, because to be honest with you, this is our first facility to build of this size, and we don't know it all yet, but we've been working very closely with our engineering and construction companies, and so we have a pretty good idea. So with that said, let me get started. Throughout the presentation now, there are going to be some videos. All of them but one feature our CEO and president, Michael Zobel. Michael would love to be here, and he will come one day and spend some time talking to you, but today he's meeting with a couple of big investors, so he sent the B team. So you got me on this today. So right off the bat, one thing about True Shrimp, we are not only building a company, we're building an enterprise, we're building an industry. Nowhere in the world is anything like this being done, nowhere. And I'll tell you a little bit about the stories we go through, but please understand that's why some of the things take longer than any of us want to do, because everything is new. And when you go down and ask people to invest $400 million in a project, they got a lot of questions. But what they're seeing, they're really becoming believers in the technology first, and then the sales and marketing plan second. But the technology, we have made unbelievable strides in the 4 years that True Shrimp has been in existence. And first as a division of Railco, and then last July July 2018, as our own company. So we've made some tremendous strides with technology, and I'm going to share a little bit about that with you. So to get started, I want to introduce you to Michael and let you hear a little bit from him.
The opportunity around shrimp aquaculture is enormous. There's an incredible demand and a growing demand for food across the globe. There is a convergence developing of the consumer starting to want to know, where did my food come from? How was it processed? How was it handled? There's also regulation that's starting to push back and protect the population from a food safety and food origin perspective. And then there's a convergence of technology. What has been learned and what are the alternatives? The True Shrimp Company is at the center of this convergence when it comes to shrimp. The word is spreading that what we're doing here is making a difference, and we're so excited for that very thing, that it makes a difference to the American consumer and to the world consumer. A safe and abundant supply of delicious shrimp.
Okay, just an introduction. I don't know if you know Michael. Does anybody know who Michael Zobel is? Anybody ever bought a Red Baron pizza? Nobody's ever bought a Red Baron pizza? Okay. Let's say he didn't do as good a job as he tells me he did. He is the Red Baron. He is the gentleman that started the Red Baron brand and marketed it all across the world. And so he comes from the Schwann company, actually from another company in between, but comes with a tremendous background in marketing and sales and marketing and strategy. And so Michael is leading our organization. So let me talk a little bit about why in the world we're even in shrimp. There's tremendous opportunity in this country for shrimp. The people in the United States consume about 1.6 billion pounds of shrimp. That's about 4.4 pounds for every person here. Now, if you didn't get yours, rest assured some people down south where I'm from got yours, okay? Because when I moved up here, and you can sort of tell I'm not from here, I keep telling people I'm from southern Minnesota, but they don't believe it. Moving from the south and living on the Gulf Coast, I thought the whole world eat shrimp like we did, but they don't. And I found out why when I went and bought some up here. Like I said, we consume about 1.6 billion pounds of shrimp. So the good news for us is we don't have to teach the American people to like shrimp. It's not like we're introducing something really odd. We're just introducing it in a high quality manner. So much of our shrimp today, I don't know if you know, but 94% of our shrimp today is imported. Growing up, I thought Forrest and Bubba brought it all from the Gulf. I did. They brought all mine anyway, but they don't. 94% of our shrimp is imported. 84% of the shrimp comes from shrimp ponds or shrimp farms, not live caught or wild caught. And this is where some of the challenges come in with shrimp. But like I said, 94% of our shrimp is imported. And by the time that shrimp gets to you up here in the Midwest, it's probably 6 to 9 months old, which isn't bad because it's frozen, but it's not fresh shrimp. It's nothing like you'll see from True Shrimp.
Anyway, like I was saying, shrimp is the fruit of the sea. You can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, bake it, saute it. There's shrimp kebabs, shrimp creole, shrimp gumbo, pan fried, deep fried, stir fried. There's pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp, shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad, shrimp and potatoes, shrimp burger, shrimp sandwich. That's about it.
That's about it. Shows you there's a variety. And I hope most of y'all are old enough to know who those people are, but that's Forrest and Bubba if you don't, from Forrest Gump. And like I said, growing up in the Southeast, I just thought everybody eat shrimp and that shrimp was available. But it really isn't. So just give you a little bit of an idea about the imports. The United States, we're pretty much a net exporter of chicken. Beef, sometimes we're an exporter, sometimes we're an importer. I'm really looking at these numbers right here. Pork, we're an exporter of pork. But you can see shrimp, 5.56. Now they tell me, and I haven't been able to verify this personally, but they tell me that seafood is the second largest trade deficit item there is behind energy, and that shrimp is the biggest part of that. So there's tremendous opportunity to have a market here in the U.S. if we can produce these products here in the U.S. And this is really what we're all about, what we're after. This is the way things are done today. And I'm going to give you this just to give you a reference. I'm not going to tell you it's bad. I'm not going to tell you it's good. I'm just going to tell you the way it is, and I'll let you come up with your own conclusion. But this is the way that most of the shrimp that's not caught in the wild is processed. To the far top, see my top right, your top left, is typical shrimp farms. This one happens to be in Peru. And the shrimp farms, basically what they do, they go out beside the ocean and they dig these ponds. Sometimes they line them, sometimes they don't. And then they pour ocean water into these ponds, and then they fill them with basically baby shrimp, or we call it post larva. And that's where they try to grow. And this is the challenge. This is the big challenge with doing this, because the disease that affects shrimp is in the ocean, okay? But the ocean's big enough that it can handle it. But when you take that water and you put it in a confined space like a pond, then you put in shrimp, then you put in feed, you start creating a cocktail of issues. And so what they have to do today, a lot of places they have to use antibiotics and things like that to keep the shrimp alive. And so this is the big challenge, and therefore, you know, they have to harvest quickly. So right now it's very difficult to buy large shrimp in the United States. It's because they're afraid that if they go one more day, the shrimp won't be there. And so this is the challenge that's out there. Also, these ponds become very much environmental issues because basically the land is not usable after the life of the pond, which can be 15 to 20 years, but that land becomes unusable. And that's what they're experiencing a lot right now in China and India as they begin to retire some of these ponds. The second slide on the top, this is the way that the post larva or the baby shrimp, however you want to call it, this is the process that's used to load the shrimp into the water. So they go on these dikes and they just pump the post larva out there. The last slide on the top, keep going this right for you guys, is the way that typical feeding is done. And we laugh about it at the canoe. Now there are more modern ways of feeding, but not a lot different. But basically they have to take the food out and just try to distribute it in the pond. Now you can imagine if you got a pond full of shrimp, that person on that boat's not distributing that food evenly. And that's part of the problem. So the food doesn't get distributed where it needs to be. And a lot of issues around that. On the far end of the bottom is typical water treatment plant there. They use the paddle wheels to put oxygen into the water. They also use these to bring in the ocean water, take out the trash, take out other seafood creatures and things like this. But that's the way that they sort of have to be able to take care of their water. So it's very rudimentary, I guess, solution to that. The one in the middle, on the bottom, this is a young man, he's harvesting shrimp. This is the way that a lot of times they're harvested. And again, there's some more other techniques, but they all are very manual, and they also, depending on where they're at, produce a lot more things other than shrimp, okay? So a lot of other animals come up with that. And then lastly, here at the bottom, if you've eaten shrimp ever in your life and it was deheaded, somebody manually took the head off that shrimp. Before True Shrimp, there was not a machine that would take the head off the shrimp at all. And so the manual labor, the labor required to do this is tremendous. And it's also social issues. Slavery and other kinds of labor abuse are common in the industry. And so because simply of the amount of manual labor required to process the shrimp. So this is sort of a picture of the way things are done today. A little bit more modern approach. They call it the recirculating aquaculture system, RAS. And this is where people have large tanks and that they grow the shrimp into these tanks. And this is a step in a better direction, but they still, the shrimp still live in their waste, and they still live in not a pristine environment. They're also very limited in what they can produce, and there's some other issues there. But this is probably a safer way of doing things. Our parent company is Railco Nutrition. Is anybody familiar with them? Railco Nutrition is a plant and animal health company. And one of the things that they have offices all over the world. And one day, Brian Nakamus, who's the president and CEO of Railco, he's also the chairman of our board now, and him and his father John are the largest investors in True Shrimp. He was down in Ecuador meeting with some of his salespeople and found out that they were using some of the animal health products to help shrimp, improve shrimp gut, protect the shrimp, keep them healthier. And it was actually working. Now, it wasn't designed for that, but it was working. This was almost 10 years ago. And so Brian, they got interested in shrimp. Maybe there's a market here for doing some things with shrimp. And so they took him to one of the shrimp farms, and Brian was standing on that same dock where they showed you where they were feeding the shrimp or loading the shrimp out into the water. He was standing on a similar bank like that, and he just made the comment, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way of doing this. And so that's what began the journey at Railco of looking into shrimp. Never thought about it before. Swine, yes. Beef, yes. Turkey, yes. Chicken, yes. All these things. And then plants, but never shrimp. So they begin I guess our journey is the best way to describe it. And they ended up down in a research facility at Texas A&M. And Dr. Lawrence Addison had done the research at Texas A&M on growing shrimp in shallow water. And this is actually a picture of the first tidal basins that they had. Actually, they called them raceways or something. But you know, you see there's just a research type facility. Brian and John quickly realized that there was tremendous potential in this if we could get the patent for this. We found out that they had already sold the patent to another company. We talked to that company, they wanted a fortune to do anything, but they weren't doing anything with it. So John and Brian told the people at Texas A&M, when you get that patent back, because you're going to get it back for non-performance, we'd like to bid on it. So a little over 4 years ago, they did get the patent back. They put it out for bids, and 40 companies went down to Texas to make their spiel to gain or to be able to purchase that patent. Railco, fortunately enough, we were the one chosen to do that. We were chosen that based on our research and development, the things that we focus on. They thought that we would actually use this technology. And so a little over 4 years ago, we obtained the patent to these, what we call now tidal basins. This is probably the most critical thing, and I'm going to talk a lot about this, but this was the beginning of us getting into the shrimp business as a division of Railco.
To create something new, to create something of value, one often has to change the rules. And we here at True Shrimp are changing the rules of an entire industry, the shrimp industry. From the very beginning, we knew that we had to validate the technology. The first decision taken by True Shrimp was to build a laboratory. And in that laboratory, a couple things would happen. We would validate the technology, we'd be able to grow it to a commercial scale, but at the same time we would learn about the animal. The shrimp is actually an intriguing and glorious creature. I don't know if people would say they're attractive, but they certainly are a simple creature, but also have very complex needs. As you can well imagine, for the shrimp, the water is everything. So our core competency here, the thing that we have worked the hardest on, is managing the water chemistry so that it can successfully support the life of that shrimp.
As Michael said, we're trying to change everything. So you're going to hear some terms you probably never heard of as I go through this presentation. That is intentional. That was very intentional. Things like harbors and tidal basins and reefs and things like this, we have totally changed. I was telling somebody earlier, somebody asked me yesterday, y'all are a shrimp farm? It hits me in the heart. No, we're not. We're totally different. We're totally different technology. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of that. But first I want to introduce Ballatin Bay. Ballatin Bay is over in Ballatin, Minnesota, population about 407. It was the high school of John Nakamas, one of our founders. And Railco bought that high school for $1. It was on the block to be tore down. It was going to cost them about $1 million to tear it down. They bought it for $1. They put $2 million into it and upgraded it, and it became our headquarters, where basically our research and development, our technology development, our product development, our sales and administration groups are located there. And it also is where we began to build what we needed to do to prove that this technology could work. We built an analytical lab there, we built an innovation center, and eventually we built Ballatin Cove Hatchery and then Ballatin Bay Reef. And all these things I'll talk about in just a little bit. But this little high school in little old Ballatin, Minnesota, this is an aerial view. It just shows it's the high school and the big black roof. And then over sort of the left is the reef that we built when it was under construction. That reef cost about somewhere between $11 and $12 million to build a reef. But that was going to be the first commercial, proving that this could be commercialized, commercial and research facility in the industry. This is our team. We're made up of 33 people. This picture was made last September when we christened Ballatin Bay Reef, opened the reef up for the first time last September. So we've been going for about a year now. We actually put shrimp in the water in October of last year. We got shrimp in the water for the first time. We're made up of a diverse group. We have several PhDs. We have, I think we have 3 PhDs. We have 7 people with their master's degrees. Our lead researcher for shrimp is from Mexico. He graduated Texas A&M. Our lead data statistician is from South Korea. The young lady that grows the algae for our larvae, she is from Calcutta, India, and I'm from Tennessee. So we have all kinds of foreigners working in the group. That was supposed to be a joke. Thank you for laughing. But we are a very diverse group. Now the rest of the group is made up of people from Minnesota, South Dakota. And so we have lots of people from this area. We've been able to find a lot of talent in this area. So we're still a small group, but we're growing. We'll let Michael talk to you one more time.
Our research has been going on for over 4 years today. But the way we look at it, it's gotten us thus far. We've been able to build Balaton Bay Reef. We are preparing to build the commercial structures that we call harbors. But the work here in this laboratory will never end. We will always be looking for how do we create a better, more healthy diet for the shrimp? How do we handle them better? How do we protect their environment, which we call the habitat? I don't envision that work will ever stop, now or into the future. We'll always be looking for a way to better care for this animal. The people who work at True Shrimp are highly skilled individuals. At the heart of it all, they're a group of people who truly care about the animal and care about what we're doing. And it gives me such pride and pleasure to be part of it. This building, which has always been a center of learning, remains the foundation of the True Shrimp Company, and as far as I'm concerned, will remain that foundation for many years to come.
Balaton Bay is, like I said, the home of our research and development. Our research focused pretty much on 3 areas, really 4 if you count biosecurity, but it's genetics, it's habitat, and it's feed. Those are the 3 main areas that we focus on in research and development right now. Our journey has, like I said, began there in Balaton. We started out to build an innovation center so that we could do all kinds of feed testing, water testing. Those are the kind of things on a small scale that we do in the innovation center. We actually constructed our first tidal basins at the facility, and it's sort of a picture, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. Those are actually in the innovation center to be able to prove that we can grow shrimp in 12 inches of water. And then in September of last year, like I said, we opened Balaton Bay Reef. A reef is a collection of tidal basins. Our tidal basin technology is stacked on top of each other. So in Balaton Bay Reef, those tidal basins are 150 feet long, they're 12.5 feet wide, and there's 8 stacked on top of each other. That's how we're able to produce a large amount of shrimp in a small area. So this is talking a little bit about that. We have a huge partner, or very important partner, let's put it that way, with the Oceanic Institute in Hawaii. They have been doing research on shrimp for years, on aquaculture for years. You may not be aware, but most of you paid it for this, but the U.S. government had made a large, project about 30 years ago to develop aquaculture in the United States. Mississippi State, Auburn, Texas A&M, University of Arizona, and Oceanic Institute were all lead researchers in different areas to make that happen. And it was funny because most of that technology didn't get used. Most of that research and development didn't get used. And part of the reason in the shrimp world is it's too cold in the United States to grow shrimp year round. Even down in the southernmost parts of Texas or Florida, it's not warm enough. You need to be closer to something like the equator for some things like that. So when we started work with the Oceanic Institute, they were extremely excited, and one of their presidents made a comment that after 30 years, we finally get to fulfill our mission of creating an aquaculture industry, and True Shrimp is it. So they provide for us the brood stock, the mom and daddy shrimp, okay? So they fly over about once a month. I think we fly them first class. They come into Minneapolis. We go pick them up, and we bring them to Balaton, and we put them in our hatchery, and that's where we begin to produce post-larva. This will be extremely important that we get this working and working right, because we'll need 1 million post-larva a day to fill our harbors. Now that sounds like a lot, but they're about the size of your eyelash, so they're little guys. but we'll need about 1 million of them, and we intend to grow those in our facility. The other thing about Oceanic Institute, they, all the shrimp that we receive from there is pathogen free. They have been tested and certified to be free of the 9 known diseases that affect shrimp. That may not, it seems like everybody would be that way, but that's not the case. I was talking about a lot of the fish ponds or shrimp ponds and things like that. They have to battle disease every day. We don't have to battle disease. Now, we work to prevent it every day, but we don't have to battle it every day. So our focus has been able to be put on growth, growing the shrimp. And so that's, it's a great partnership. We look forward to it. We have a real hard time getting people to go over and visit. I want to introduce you to our shrimp, Lipotenaeus venemi. I have to say that because it took me 6 months to be able to say that. So I'm not going to say it again, but it's the Pacific white-legged shrimp. That's the shrimp that we've chosen. It's the most domesticated shrimp that's out there. I didn't know shrimp were domesticated until I started working for True Shrimp, but they are. Shrimp, if we don't feed them, shrimp like shrimp, okay? They're very cannibalistic, okay? So if we don't feed them well, they'll pick on their younger or smaller or whatever kin, and they'll have them for dinner. So shrimp are very cannibalistic. Actually, the Pacific white-legged shrimp are about the least cannibalistic of all. That's one of the reasons for choosing them. They're naturally nocturnal. They're bottom dwellers. They feed at night. They don't like the light. And so they're just a different creature, an unusual creature. But like I said, there's been a lot of research. They're the ones that's probably used most in any kind of shrimp farming or anything like that. Shrimp are a tremendously effective or efficient creature. One of the comments that made by Michael Zobel when he was being recruited by John and Brian, and he looked at this technology and he made a comment that guys, we can be a big part of the solution for feeding the world 30 years from now with this technology, and we can. Because we got to figure out how we're going to provide food for people as population grows. True Shrimp is not the answer, but it's one of the answers, okay? Because we can produce a tremendous amount of this protein, and we can do it very efficiently. To produce a pound of edible beef, well, you look at my slide. Did anybody know before I came in here how many pounds of food that took? Could anybody look at the slide tell me how many pounds of feed that took? It's 11. It takes 11 pounds of feed to produce 1 pound of edible beef, roughly 11. Chicken, it takes about 2.4 pounds. It takes about 4.1 pounds of feed to produce a pound of edible pork. Right now, we're running actually a little less than 2.1. We're right at 2 pounds of feed to produce a pound of edible shrimp. We know that this number is going to come down. So the food we have to feed our food is going to be very important down the road as we try to feed the world's population. So having efficient proteins and things like this is a tremendous opportunity. And you also see it's very high in protein, the percent of protein. So shrimp makes a lot of sense. And for most of us, it tastes good. I don't know about everybody here, but for most of us. Michael talked about the habitat, and this is probably the most important thing that we do at True Shrimp is manage that habitat. A little over 2 years ago now, about 2.5 years ago, after doing a lot of work with feed and other things and water, we figured it's the water, stupid. You got to focus on the water. It's their habitat. It's everything to the shrimp. We've learned that we don't feed the shrimp, we feed the water. The water feeds the shrimp. But this creating an environment for the shrimp is the most important thing that we do. And we make our own salt water. Our shrimp are grown in salt water. So we create the salt water. We have to maintain the minerals and the mineral balance in that water. We have to maintain the nitrogen, the oxygen. All those things have to be maintained. But the habitat is probably the most important thing to the shrimp, and this is what we spend most of our time working on. Talked about feed. Our feed is very interesting too. We're about as far from the ocean as you can get here in Minnesota. I mean, north, south, east, west, we're a long way from the ocean, okay? There's a reason for that. First of all, I talked about it earlier, the disease is in the ocean. So being far from the ocean, we get away from the disease for the shrimp. The second thing is we moved them to a food source. We have been able to develop a food source for them with basically it's 40% soybeans, a little bit of wheat. We've used a little corn, but we're not using that right now. But 40% of our meal is soybeans. Well, gosh, guess where soybeans are located? They're located right up here. So we've got a tremendous access to our feed source being up here in the Midwest. And that's really huge, especially moving forward as we grow and grow and grow. But our research is around various types of food. Like I said, we grow algae, we use plant-based, we have animal-based. The shrimp won't eat 100% soybean. I decided they're like me. We have a little local restaurant there in Madison called Benson's, and you can go get a hamburger plate and either get fries or a salad. I'm trying to be less of me, so I usually try to get the salad. I should just eat the salad, but I like the hamburger. Well, they like the animal feed too. They like the animal meal. They don't eat just protein. They are the soybeans. So we focus on the various types of food. We focus on food delivery. Our shrimp are fed basically pellets, and they start, as you imagine, the shrimp are small, so we have to have really small pellets. We have to have the right size feed for the right size shrimp, or they won't eat it or they can't eat it. So we have 7 different sizes of feed that we produce. And of course we have to, make sure that the shape's right, the size is right, the buoyancy is right as far as the water goes. The amount of feed that we feed the shrimp, like I said earlier, the shrimp, if you don't feed them, they'll eat each other. So one day you walk in and you've got 5 shrimp, and the next day you walk in, you have 4, you didn't feed them enough. So those kind of things happen, but the food volume is something we've done a lot of research on. And then the frequency. We literally feed the shrimp every hour. So that's an important part of this. They're fed every hour, so they don't have the tendency to go eat each other. We've done a lot of work on biosecurity. We are a biosecured facility. The good news is the shrimp won't hurt you, but you can hurt them. So we've got to protect the shrimp from mean old people that come and visit us and stuff. But we have done a lot of work on biosecurity. And again, going back to some of the things Michael said earlier on, we want to provide that safe supply of food going in the future. So we're very cognizant of the things we have to do with biosecurity. How has all that manifested itself thus far? And this is what we're so proud of. The first graph on the left, and I apologize that they don't match, but the reason they don't match is things are changing so fast I can't keep my graphs up. But the one on the one over here on this one here is the growth curve, or the growth curves. When we first started this, Texas A&M told us it would take 210 days for us to grow from a post larva to a 35-gram shrimp, which is a jumbo shrimp to use, 16 to 20 per pound. They said it would take 210 days. We put them in the water for the first time. We got to 174. We proved that the technology that we developed early on within the first year, we were down to 174 days. Today, that's what I said, the graphs have changed. About a month ago, we were at 140 days to produce a 35-gram shrimp. This past week, we're down to 132 days to produce a 35-gram shrimp. And we're doing that through the work we're doing with the habitat and the feed, and just the care of those shrimp and the environment that they live in, because they live in a very pristine environment. Our goal when we start Madison Bay Harbor was to be down to 122 days. We think we're going to shatter that. And why that's important, that's just more shrimp we can get out of that very expensive facility. We can grow more and more shrimp the faster we can grow them. And we don't do that with sacrificing any quality. In fact, the quality is getting better and better as we move forward with this. The other thing is survivability, or it has continued to go up. We see the word cohort, that's just our batch of shrimp that we're running through. And you see the orange lines is that where we are right now in our model, we've actually exceeded the 74% survivability of those shrimp. That is unheard of. And the reason is the environment that they live in, and the information that we have. It's just unbelievable how much information and data is used in this research to be able to grow these shrimp. These things right here are what convince investors that this technology is working. Is this continued ability to grow these shrimp faster and their survival of the shrimp. I lied.
The fundamental technology of the True Shrimp Company is the Tidal Basin. The Tidal Basin creates an aquarium, benign environment for the shrimp. We got the Tidal Basin technology from Texas A&M, but we surely did not stop there. We added several elements that aid the tidal basin in creating that benign aquarium environment. We are actually proud of all the research and all the technology. But the result of all that is that we can look after this animal. We can look after the shrimp. Their environment is constantly monitored. They are fed properly every day. Their habitat, the temperature of the water, everything about their habitat is monitored and carefully done. And then of course the result of that is a superior shrimp product. Well, to the shrimp, water is everything. And so for us, water is everything. The shrimp, of course, is a marine animal, a saltwater animal. So water, salt water, its habitat, as we refer to it, is absolutely critical. So the technology is developed in such a way that we can manage that water habitat. The water chemistry, we measure everything in the water, ammonia, nitrates, salinity, temperature, pH, everything you can imagine about that water is measured and monitored and learned from in terms of how it affects the shrimp. We also know that water is a resource, and we must sustain that resource as much as we are able. So our entire process is built around reusing the water or reclaiming the water. We periodically remove the water from the tidal basin, we send it through a water reclamation center, and it's returned, cleaned, and ready to use again. So the sustainability of water, not only in addition to the chemistry, is critical to our operations and to our vision of what this will be.
Technology that we've utilized that nobody else in the world has was water reclamation, our hatcheries, our tidal basins, which are patented. Not only the patents we bought for Texas A&M, but the additional patents that we've added, the reef that I'll talk a little bit about, and then the harbor. So these are the technologies. The research and development was about the health of the shrimp, growing of the shrimp. This is the technology of how we're going to do this. And start with water management. Michael said all the water we bring in, it goes through a UV process, it gets treated, and then it goes through, we use reverse osmosis to purify the water. Then we add the salt, we create the salt water. When Madison Bay Harbor starts up, when it's fully loaded, it'll have about 15 million gallons of water in it, and it'll have about $2 million worth of salt. And so as good businessmen, we're cheap and we want to reuse that. So we reuse all that water. So that water is constantly being reused. It's never released. We will never release salt water, at least intentionally, out of the harbors. And we have systems in place to prevent that. So like Michael said, water is so important to us, and we have spent $30 million to develop this water reclamation system. I told you that this is sort of a diagram, a lot of concern, what's going to happen with all that water. And this sort of diagram we've showed in Madison several times, that none of the water will escape. The only water that's going to go to the city is just your domestic water, your wastewater from your toilets and wash up and things like that. But even our wash up water will go into a treatment facility, and we actually will have an evaporator crystallizer in process where we can remove all the solids and everything if we were to ever exceed the limits. So the intention is not to come to South Dakota and pollute. That doesn't make any sense for us, not with our hopes and dreams and doing those things. And so we ran into some issues in Minnesota you've probably heard about. Had nothing to do with us putting salt water out. It had to do with a thing called specific conductance and an issue with their wastewater treatment plant licensing. And it was simply an issue that we're still working with the MPCA trying to get resolved, but we couldn't wait. And they told us it would take anywhere from 18 to 36 months to get an answer, not to get a yes, but to get an answer. And so we had to move on. So that was the reason we left. Any questions on this? I don't want to gloss over this, but any questions? Because a lot of questions come up about water. I'm trying to get through this so you get out of class. Balaton Cove Hatchery is where I said we grow the shrimp. We built this facility. It's a huge focus. We grow our own algae here. Constant research as far as the raising of the shrimp. This is sort of the shrimp it's not a great picture, it's the best one I got though. The growth cycle, they start out as eggs. The females lay the eggs in the water. They're fermented in the water by the males. The eggs, the first stage, after they hatch out the eggs, is a nopulized stage. They're there for about 1 to 2 days, 1.5, something like that. The second stage is the zoea stage. They're there about 3 to 5 days. And then the mysis stage, the third stage, again, 3 to 5 days. So in about really 8 to 12 days from the time they hatch the egg, they get to what we call a post-larva. And the post-larva is basically the first time they start looking like a shrimp. But like I said, they're about the size of your eyelash or a good sized mosquito. That's where they start from. And from there, that's when I say we grow for 140 days. We take them from there and we grow them into full-size shrimp. Okay, the most important technology that we have, again, is this tidal basin. The tidal basins are, the best way I can describe it to people, and nobody here at True Shrimp uses this but me, but this is a shrimp lazy river. I mean, that's basically what this is. These tidal basins here we have in Gallatin are 150 feet long. They'll be 585 feet long in Madison. They're 12 feet wide, and basically they have an apex in the middle. And what we do, we create a current that runs counterclockwise in this tidal basin. It goes about 5 miles an hour, sort of simulates some of the ocean, but there's a more important part of that. And so this current is constantly moving. And what that current does is that current keeps the shrimp from ever living in excess feed, their feces. Shrimp do die, so there's dead shrimp, dead parts, and the shrimps molt, they shed their skeleton. All of this is constantly moved out. It goes to the corners of the tidal basin. This is an example of the flow. And in these corners, we slow down the flow. We have sumps that remove all this excess materials, okay? And so that's what keeps that environment of those shrimp extremely pristine. That water's at a constant 84-degree temperature. It's constantly monitored for pH, salinity, these types of things. And so they live in a very consistent, very nurturing environment. That I tried to point it out, but I don't think I did a good job. We have automatic feeders that run the length of the tidal basin, sort of like a Scott spreader. That's how we feed the shrimp. We know exactly what kind of shrimp are in the basin, how old they are, how big they are, what size feed they need, when they need fed. All that is automated, other than just loading the feed. And so they live in this very pristine environment that we know I mean, that's how we're able to grow healthy and large shrimp, because of this environment. But the tidal basin technology is very unique. Like I said, we grow shrimp in 12 inches of water. And so it's very, it's about as efficient as you can get from a water usage standpoint. People in to see it, and a couple weeks before we started putting water in the basin. But just give you an idea how big the facility is. That's really exciting, but it'll give you an idea. So there's 8 tidal basins stacked on top of each other here. It's about 44 feet tall. And these, like I said, are 150 feet long. The ones that we'll have in Madison are basically 4 times this. And we'll have 32 of these reefs and not just one. So we'll have 288 tidal basins at Madison. We'll be able to produce about 9 million pounds of shrimp a year. So that's the goal. I talked to you earlier that there was every shrimp you ever eat, somebody had popped the head off of it or removed the head manually. There had never been a piece of equipment to do that until True Shrimp. We teamed up with Novatech out of Wilbur, Minnesota, people that do a lot of work in the turkey industry, and we told them our problem, and they sat down with a whiteboard and they began to develop the process. Today, and it's actually running in Mount Marshall right now as we speak, our Novatech equipment will take the head off the shrimp, it'll pull the vein or the intestine, it'll pull that for us. It can crack the shell, it can remove the shell, it can weigh the shrimp, it can measure the shrimp, it can do all those things on every individual shrimp. So people will not have to be involved with that process. We're actually allowed it to be sold out a little early. A company called Bama Shrimp down in St. Petersburg, Florida, is actually going to use the first one, which is great for us because they can work out the bugs. So that's what we're hoping. But Novatech has done a tremendous job with this. So again, Midwest technology driving this. The impact of true shrimp on the economy in the Midwest has got potential to be huge. Those feeders that are running across the tidal basins are produced by Action Manufacturing in Marshall. They're the people that do the military, the track systems for the vets and stuff. We worked with them to develop the feeder. If things go well, they'll be building a large addition onto their facility to build the 288 plus feeders that we'll need here at Madison. So the impact of true shrimp on the whole economy is a lot bigger than just what true shrimp does. Okay, I'm getting there, guys, I promise. Product development, okay, it's great to do all this research and have all this technology, but can you sell this stuff? And so we have been working very hard for a couple of years on marketing our shrimp. We've done taste tests against Walmart, against Whole Foods. The Five Guys had 25 chefs up in Minneapolis come and sample the shrimp. And the shrimp it's just unbelievable. I mean, I say that, but it really is. It's fresh. If you've never had fresh shrimp, the taste is great. Color is wonderful. Cooks up to great orange or pink when you cook the shrimp. It's firm. It's sort of a sweet taste. The shrimp is just blowing everybody away when they taste the shrimp. And so we're doing a lot of marketing. And so a couple small companies are very interested. Walmart, we've been down to Walmart down at Bennettsville. They've been up twice with sending their executives. They would like to buy all of our shrimp. They just don't want to pay enough for it. Costco is very interested. They've been to our facility. They would like us to ship fresh shrimp to within a 400-mile radius to their fresh seafood counters because they can't get shrimp. None of these people can get shrimp. Etica is very interesting. In fact, we have signed we're signing a letter of intent with them. They are the largest grocery store chain in Germany. They have over 10,000 stores. They want the entire production out of Madison Bay. That's what they're looking for. They're interested in signing a 2 or 3 year letter of intent to buy the entire production out of Madison Bay and out of Schwerin, our first facility in Europe. And then the Fish Guys is who we've been partnering with local. They are a reseller, wholesaler of seafood in the Midwest. They cannot get shrimp. They'll mark everything else they get as getting an A. The shrimp's about a C+, the best they can get. I'll tell you a little bit about them, but we're partnering with them. And there's many others, but the interest is there. Walmart, one of the reasons we're interested in Walmart's the largest seller of shrimp in the United States. We could build 40 harbors. It would take 40 harbors for us to build to fill their order. That's how much shrimp they have. But they told us, they said, don't think for a minute that if we could get your shrimp today, we would get out of Southeast Asia today because of all the issues that they have with shrimp coming out from Southeast Asia. So we're still working with them and we'll see where it all ends up. But a lot of work in sales and marketing, a lot of people interested. Other things just real quickly, sustainability, environmental stewardship are extremely important to us. And there's some real opportunities from there also. Shrimp, like I said, every so often they shed their skeleton, okay? We call it a molt. They shed them, and we collect those molts. That molt is a source of cotton, and cotton can be converted to chitosan. And if you're not familiar with chitosan can be used anywhere, lower grades in the feed. It's used in women's cosmetics, but the biggest thing is it's used on the high end for biomedical. It's a natural polymer. It stops bleeding. So it's used in emergency bandages, field bandages in the Army. One guy that's used some of our product has developed the cement that when they do heart surgery, I guess they crack the sternum. And today, I didn't know this, they put you back together with beeswax. And he's created a cement from the chitosan that is so much stronger, but then also doesn't interfere with your body and all that other kind of stuff. So biomedical, some people have told us shrimp will be a byproduct of what we do, that this chitosan could be the main thing. We haven't believed that yet, but we'll wait and see. But there's real opportunities for that waste, that scales that we collect. And the problem is there's no place to get that today, but we've got it. We're gonna have it. Right here in Madison Bay, we'll collect every day, we'll collect the molts, and we'll have that available to sell. And we're talking to Sanford and some other people about doing some research for that. Animal feed, talked about that waste that comes out of the tidal basins, that feces, the excess feed, that's high in protein. We've talked to some people using that as an animal source. We produce 9 million pounds of shrimp here. A head of a shrimp is about a third of it. So if you make 9 million pounds, you got 3 million pounds of shrimp heads. What are you going to do with them? Because you get northerners don't eat those. And most of us southerners don't either, but you can. But we're working with pet food companies right now, cat food manufacturers, very interested in this as a source of protein for cat food and dog food too, but cats really like shrimp. And we like cats because cats are the choice of millennials, if you didn't know that. And so we'll try to make them happy. But almost all of our water, almost 100% of our water will be repurposed, reused. Like I said, very little will go out. Our biggest loss of water every day, believe it or not, is going to be evaporation. We're going to lose about 180 to 200,000 gallons of water a day evaporation. That sounds like a lot, but when you got 15 million gallons, it's really not that much, but we do have some. But our water is reclaimed. And then, like I said, we're going to be a product that's produced in the United States. A lot of things are happening out there that make true shrimp makes a lot of sense. World fisheries, wildlife fisheries, they're drying up. You probably don't watch it in the news very much because you really probably care about shrimp, but the Northeast, New England has shut down their shrimping off the New England coast for 3 years because they've depleted the number of shrimp. And it doesn't make sense to go out further for ecological reasons and for economic reasons. Overseas production, there's a lot of constraints on overseas production, a lot of the issues that I've talked about, and I really have just touched the surface. A lot of regulatory pressures now with the Food Modernization Safety Act that was passed in 2011. A lot of good things there, but those things are meant to protect the consumer. And right now, less than 10% of the shrimp that comes into the country is inspected. So we know that that's going to get increase as we go down the road. Channel pressures, people like Walmart. If you go into Walmart and you buy their shrimp, I promise you, it will not say every day, or what is their everyday value, or whatever it is that the brand is. It won't say that. It'll be in a white and blue bag and it'll say shrimp, because they don't know where it comes from for sure. They'll tell you that. They can't tell you that with certainty, because it may have been raised in Vietnam but went to Thailand to get shipped over here. So they can't do that. And one of the things that we will have will be traceability. And then the consumer pressures. People want to know where their food's coming from. You know, where was it made? What's in there? True shrimp will be a very, I got to stay away from those marketing words, you get in trouble. It'll be shrimp, okay? There's no chemicals. There's no GMO. We don't grow Franken shrimps, nothing like that. That's out there. We have no GMO. The shrimp are going to be raised in a very pristine environment, very healthy environment. And like I said, that's something that we're really excited about, that we can bring to it, the market that nobody else can. So we think all those things that are happening out there are perfect for our disruptive technologies, our revolutionary processes, and our superior products. We think that the world is primed for this. Okay, I'm almost to the last thing. I know you guys got to go if you got to, sorry, but a lot of people ask me, is true shrimp real? Is it real? Guys, we've spent over $50 million in research and development in Gallatin Bay. Okay, the Railco company started us. They're very, a company with a lot of integrity. I have more respect for the two people that run Railco than probably anybody I've ever worked for. They are a tremendous company. And they have got their money in this. If this doesn't work, it's not going to be other investors that lose money. It's going to be a lot of the people from Railco. So we bring a lot of this, and people have said, well, what about aquaponics, or aquaponics, whatever they're called? We're not aquaponics. It's different. We're totally different from anything like that. 4 years, $50 million have been invested in research and development to bring these products to you guys. Just yesterday, part of the reason I'm sort of pumped up and excited, yesterday we had our first commercial sale. And guys, I got to pack it. I packed 14 bags of 15-pound bags of shrimp yesterday that we sold to the fish guys, our first commercial sale ever. Now, we sold to the public before, but we never sold to a wholesaler. Well, like I said earlier, we're starting up our facility in Marshall, and we hope by the end of the week to have a 400 or 500 pound headless shrimp sale to the fish guys. So very soon, there will be true shrimp in restaurants in the Midwest. So we're pretty excited about that. So when you ask if we're real, yeah, we're real. Right here in Madison High School, last Friday I came over and I visited with the culinary class. They got a big board meeting October the 7th, and Principal Shaw asked me if we could possibly donate some shrimp. I said, yes, sir, we'll try to do it. What do you want to do? He said, my culinary class is going to prepare the meal. We'd like them to use the shrimp. So we came over last Friday, and I introduced myself, introduced what we were doing. We came up with a plan. Monday, we brought 4 pounds of shrimp over, and these wonderful young people, there's 8 of them in the advanced culinary classes. They deheaded shrimp for the first time. They debanged it, they deshelled it. They did all those things, and then they took half the shrimp, and they just went to work, and they made some wonderful shrimp. I mean, they some of it was garlic and butter, some of it was just butter, some of it was Old Bay. Two of the guys did the breading that they tried. Didn't work real good, but it still tasted good. Shrimps overcame that. But today, in about another hour, they're going to start working on some recipes. All 8 of them were supposed to come back with the recipes and then figure out what they're going to do. But right here at Madison High School, and they were just blown away by the quality of the shrimp. They'd never seen anything like it, never tasted anything like it. One of the guys actually tried sushi, so anyway. But we're excited about what they're doing and what's going on here in Madison. So when people ask, are we real? We're real. We're producing about 60,000 pounds of shrimp a year at Ballatin. It's a small research development facility. And again, we'll produce 9 million pounds when we get here. Our goal and our journey, where it's taking us next, is here. It's at Madison. I'll run through these a little quicker. This is what it's going to look like. This is a drawing of the facility out at your industrial park. The harbor's the big long building here. There's actually 2 parts to that, east hemisphere and a west hemisphere. The hatchery is located here. Sorry, guys. On this end, there'll be 2 hatcheries for biosecurity purposes, and then that water reclamation system on the other end. And it will take up about 45 acres of land at the industrial park. But we're excited about doing this. We've already done a lot of the engineering, and things are looking really good. Like I said, we'll grow about 9 million pounds of shrimp there. We have a plan. We'll put a processing center in the hub, and then our plan is to build harbors throughout the Midwest. The goal is to build at least 40. Let me back up. The goal is to build 3 in the next 5 years, to build 10 in the next 10 years, and then 40 at some point. I probably won't be around when we do that. But our investment bankers are telling us we're thinking way too small. And they've challenged us to build 53 in 10 years. And now that would be across the world, but that's 53 harbors. We said you raised the $26 billion to do that, and we'll do that. So, but the plan is to sort of a hub and spoke, very much like a lot of the other protein industries do, where the shrimp is produced at the harbor, is sent to a processing center that will process that shrimp on a large volume. We're probably looking at that processing center. We haven't decided for sure, but it's probably near Sioux Falls somewhere. We really like the I-90, I-29 corridor there as far as getting product out, but we haven't decided for sure. But the goal is to build at least 10 harbors in the next 10 years. I already sort of went over this. This is where I told you they wanted 53 harbors in 10 years, so I won't talk about that one.
We take the phrase safe, sustainable, superior shrimp very seriously at True Shrimp. And to the best of our ability and using the most modern research and technology we can, we look and care for, look after the shrimp itself, how to be processed. We look after the environment, the resources that we're using to grow the shrimp. To be able to create a product that we can be very proud of as an organization, and proud that the American consumer can enjoy. What is so special about what we do is how much we care about the animal itself. That dedication, that caring is what makes the True Shrimp Company really special. We have an enormous opportunity to grow literally millions and millions of pounds of shrimp from multiple harbors. And with our technology, with our research, and with the passion of the people of the True Shrimp Company, we're going to make this a reality. We're going to look back on these early days and smile.
With me, I really thought I could get this done a little quicker, but Dr. Griffith asked me to ask why Madison, why we chose Madison. And I get to take a little credit for that, because I came over here one day looking for a place for a temporary galley, and looked at your your industrial park at a vacant building there. And I went back and I told Michael, I said, Michael, if things don't work out at Laverne, I was not thinking that was going to happen at all. I said, Madison's a pretty good place to go. They got a pretty nice industrial park. And never did I know that that was going to happen a couple months later. But biggest reasons for Madison, Lewis and Clark water. You have very high quality water here. That's essential for us in our first facility. Ample natural gas supply. That's where we will heat with natural gas. Capable workforce. We feel like this is an area that we can attract people to, that there's people already here. Your industrial park, we think, was a real asset to you. Your wastewater treatment plant has plenty of capacity and ability to handle what we release, which really you're going to find out isn't that much. Your proximity to both Balaton and Sioux Falls made this area interesting. Access to 129 or I-29. No kidding, I don't put this on there because I'm coming to talk to you, but DSU, SDSU, your high schools, your hospitals, Heartland, all these things were really key organizations here because I got to look at trying to recruit these people and bring them here. And so I was able to tell them a lot of good stories about Madison. But I love college towns. Now, I'll tell you this real quickly. When I hear DSU, I worked in Cleveland, Mississippi for a long time. There's another DSU there. It's called Delta State University. And I live over in Minnesota. I kept hearing these kids were going to go to DSU, and I'm like, they're going to Cleveland, Mississippi from here? Why? But the thing about that town was I loved being in a town with a small college, or with a college period. And so having DSU here in Madison was really a big deal to us. We know that's going to be a more vibrant community. You're bringing in people. You guys are growing. We found that out afterwards. So we're really excited to be here because of DSU. Like I said, I've been to your hospital. I'm working with your high schools. Work with Heartland quite a bit. And then the other thing is the people of Madison and the people of South Dakota. If it was up to me, I would hire every farm kid or all farm kids. I just would. They always have a great work ethic, or most of them have a great work ethic. The problem is they just don't grow enough of them anymore. And so, so schools like DSU, schools like South Dakota State, we're excited about the students and the people that are in that area. So we're real excited about that. Lastly, in wrapping up, she asked me, she said, what to expect? Guys, it's going to be a 2-year construction project at Madison. At the peak of it, we'll have about 900 construction workers on site. The economic impact of that 2 years is going to be well north of $100 million. University of Minnesota's extension did a economic development study for us. Anyway, it's going to be far north of $100 million. I won't give you a number yet until we get the updated numbers, but it'll be far more than $100 million economic impact over a 2-year period. Going forward after that, it's about a $40 million, it's going to be again north of $40 million annual impact. We will have a 24/7 operations. We'll have over 150 jobs that we'll be providing, variety of professional, technical, and production type jobs. I put on there that we're doing something that a lot of people think are interesting. We're doing 12-hour shifts, but it's on a rotation. We're basically you'll work 4 days one week, you'll work 3 days the next. So in a 28-day period, you'll work 14 days, you'll be off 14 days. And so that's really interesting for a lot of people, the way things work there. And it's a whole lot better than we call the southern swing down south, where people swing shifts. If you're on days, and most of our workers will be day workers. We'll have only a small group at night. They won't be balanced shifts because we'll do most of our work during the day. And so most of the people will be working days here. Like you said, it'll be a small group to keep the shrimp fed at night. It'll be the only thing that they do. Wages, really basically on a term, but we're probably looking at starting at $50 to $16 an hour. Within 2 years, you'll be at $18 an hour. Those are for the production jobs. Of course, professional jobs vary a lot from there. But that's where we're at. We offer full benefits. We offer a very competitive benefit package. We're pretty excited about that. So we think we're bringing a good package to Madison. And that's basically what I have. I'm sorry it took a little longer than I thought, but I just ask you to stay tuned. Miss Mary from the paper, she's going to keep writing articles and keep people updated. We'll try to keep you updated. You are all invited to come to Balaton to see this thing for real, because everybody that comes to Balaton walks away with their mouth open and they can't believe what they've just seen. We had the commissioner of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Commissioner Bishop, came in a few weeks ago. And all the issues we've had in Minnesota, she walked in, she could not believe it. I asked her, what's her biggest takeaway coming out of the meeting? And she said, this place. this is for real. What we're doing is for real. And now we just got to go through this investment time, get these investments, and then get rolling to build this facility over here. Okay, I'm sorry I went long. What questions? Any? I didn't leave you any time. I apologize. Yes, sir.
What lateral moves into other edible sea creatures that are in seawater, so things like scallops or crabs? Is there an opportunity for production?
Yes, sir, we believe so. Right now we're going to focus on shrimp. One of our large investors has talked to us possibly about lobster. Our only concern about lobster is you'll get one big one in the tank. But yes, scallops is definitely a possibility. Some other seafood is a possibility. And we're open to working with people with our technology on that. But yes, absolutely. Start date, as soon as we get the money from the investors. We are hoping that we are doing something in the spring. That's our goal. But we've got to get all the investment taken care of first. And it's a lot of money, folks. It is. It's $400 million to start up one of these harbors. And that's a lot of money on unproven technology. But we have the right people. We're working with the right people. One large investor out of Nova Scotia we're working with right now. He was in wild caught. His business is wild caught, and he missed the whole salmon thing. And he's very interested. He sees where this thing can go. And so we've got the right investors that are coming. It's just slow. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're going to write a $100 million check, you got a lot of questions, or I would have a lot of questions. And so we're getting there. I wish I could give you a date. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Or I made that mistake once. But a lot of things were different. When we decided to come here versus to be in Laverne, I don't think any of us understood everything we were going to have to do and go through because our investor group changed, the state government changed, and the state's been great working with us. But we were with Governor Dugard for a while, and then, of course, the day we announced he left office, and Governor Nome, we've been working with her staff. They've been great. It's just taking time to get it. So, but it's not because of a lack of interest or effort. What else? Y'all, thank you for taking the time to come and hear about shrimp. I mean, I was like, I can't believe they're going to come and hear about shrimp. But anyway, but thank you very much. We appreciate it. And if you've got other questions or something, just let me know. Have anything? I'm good.
My name is Omar.
Hey, Omar, how are you?
Pretty familiar with